Hayden, you've just hosted an epic cost of living debate between Stephen Miles and the opposition leader David Crisafulli. How did you think it landed?
Well, Amy, thanks for partnering with us to organise it. I think it was good for the leaders to go head-to-head. It's the first time we've seen them do that since Anastasia Palaszczuk's resignation. And I thought that both leaders answered genuinely. I thought they were authentic. I think they really came to listen to Queenslanders. And we heard some people, obviously, with some pretty harrowing stories. I think the real thing, and the thing that the Courier Mail is going to stay on top of, is the follow-up action. We heard David Crisafulli and Stephen Miles both say on several occasions that they're going to hear the voices of people in the room, hear the voices of Queenslanders, and consider making changes in the budget, which is not too far away, and as they develop their policies going to the election. So I think it landed well today from both leaders, but the follow-up is really going to be the critical thing I think everybody wants to know about.
Yeah, I was really moved watching it because there were so many people in the room who wouldn't normally have access to the leaders and who were able to share bravely some really compelling stories. But I was also struck by thinking about the people that weren't in the room. And Hayden, the reason so many of these people were in the room is because they're supported by our members, by community service organisations. And I loved the question you asked about the support for the sector itself, because we did hear some a great announcement from Crisafulli on the Solar for Renters scheme, something QCOSS has been pushing for, so credit where credit's due. And providing Queenslanders with energy relief is something that the government can do, that an alternative government can do that's really tangible. But you know what else they can do that's really tangible is actually support the services that support people when they're vulnerable, when they're experiencing a cost of living crisis or their own personal crisis. How did you think the leaders went answering your question about how they're supporting services?
Yeah, look, I think it was all hung off that great question from Matt from Meals on Wheels, who talked so candidly about the challenges that they face. They're the ones going to see the empty cupboards. They're the ones opening the fridge to find that pensioners don't have milk and bread. So while he was talking about direct funding for Meals on Wheels, absolutely critical, and I think both leaders acknowledged that they'd look into it. I think it's more broadly across the sector what the government and the opposition will do to provide a funding increase to people who are providing the meals to those people that are struggling. We saw, I know you were there at the housing announcement, where they announced homelessness services will get a 20% funding increase. Meals on Wheels didn't get any of that.
No.
So this is, again, like I said before, this is going to be where we see the follow-up. That's going to be the critical thing. And your members, right, how do you think they would have taken today's debate?
Look, I think they would have been really pleased to see such a great diversity in terms of the people that ask questions. It was wonderful to hear from Dawn, who's in Cairns, who's experienced homelessness, or Rodney, who's in a terrible crisis, thinking about moving back into living in his car. We heard from young people. We heard from a really brave audience member sharing her experience of domestic and family violence. And then we heard from our members as well. So I think from that perspective, our members would be really pleased. I think what we need to see now is some real specifics. As you've said, we saw empathy from both leaders. I think we saw a willingness to listen. But we didn't see a lot of light between them. And I'm interested to know from your perspective, did we get presented with two clear choices? It seemed to me that there wasn't a huge difference in the policy positions being put forward by the leaders.
I think you're absolutely right. I think it's easier for the Premier, for Mr Miles, to make policy decisions and implement them. The budget of the opposition leader's office is a little bit smaller. He doesn't have the ability to cost policy, to develop policies like the government does. I think as we go towards the state election, we'll see a clearer divide between both parties. But at the moment too, I think it seems like cost of living is a bipartisan issue. They know they've got to address it, but it's how it's addressed. We kind of heard the Premier walk around the cost of living rebate to your electricity bill. There's more than $500 that are subsidised now. He wouldn't go as so far to say that it would be included in the budget, but I think we can be pretty confident that it will be. So I think it's going to be a matter of seeing as we get to the budget,
Yes.
as we get to the opposition leaders' reply to the budget and on to the state election in October, I think then we'll start to see and we'll be able to differentiate between who's got the best plan for cost of living.
And I we all heard that sort of announcement. This is going to be the biggest cost of living budget delivered ever. So I guess that's where our focus will be next, won't it? Looking at what does that budget contain and what the opposition leaders' reply is.
Exactly. And just on that point, Amy, I think it's important to know, of course, every year the state government says this is a record spend on health, this is a record spend on crime prevention, on education. It's because inflation rises and the government's revenue rises and the expenditure rises. So while we may see, the Premier may tout that this will be the biggest cost of living increase in the budget, I think the devil's going to be in the detail, where that support is, whether it's targeted or whether it's simply more of the same, which is important, but it just is not quite getting everybody, like Rodney, who quite correctly said he's falling through the cracks. So again, we'll see what happens in June, won't we?
We will. And can I just say thank you so much? You did a great job today, and we're just so grateful to work together to bring this debate to Queenslanders.
It's an important issue. Thanks, Amy. Appreciate it.